Hi, everyone. Carmel Sullivan here, Heart to Heart Medium. I'm really excited today because I have this special guest. And it was kind of like this really weird way we met. And so I have Heidi Hollis here. And for the people who love paranormal things, everybody will know Heidi. So let me give you a little intro on Heidi here. And I welcome you, Miss Heidi, because I'm so excited
Thank
about you here
you.
today. I feel like
Oh,
I'm
I'm excited
shaking.
to be here.
So let me tell you a little bit about Heidi. So I'm going to read this, kids, because it's a long intro. So over 20 years, Heidi has been involved in looking into mysterious topics from a very young age. She's an advocate for bringing extraordinary topics to a comfortable level where they can be spoken of frankly and openly without shame, even with a little hint of humor, which is one of my favorite things. She has written for various publications and is sought worldwide for her level headed advice and research into many of the world's intriguing phenomenon. She is Heidi is the host of Dark Becomes Light on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. Anyone who has experienced something out of the ordinary, now is a place where they can share their experiences and get some direct insight from shadow people to Hat Man and aliens to angels. Heidi Hollis is here to help. She has written many books. She's also a comic book illustrator writer. I have two of her books here. Jesus is No Joke. Love this book. I've been reading it. I think your first book, Heidi, was The Secret War. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so the interesting thing is how I met Heidi was I was at a party and we were discussing aliens at my lovely spiritual parties I go to. And her name came up. I'm like, oh, who's that? And then I'm like, I'm going to make her a friend on Facebook. Well, funny thing is, she has 5,000 friends, but somehow I was at it. I always take these as signs because signs are real. And with that, we've kind of grown an affinity to talking to each other.
Yes.
So, Heidi, I'm just very pleased to talk to you today. Heart to heart conversation. Why don't you talk a little bit how you got involved in all this interesting things in the world today?
Oh, yeah. It's a pleasure, first off, and you're a lovely person to know. And I'm glad that
Oh,
you reached out and connected. And I always tell people it's like it's good to be open to meeting new people, no matter who you are, where you are, and it's always a blessing. Um, so thank you for inviting me to come
oh,
on
you're
here
welcome.
and connecting as we have. It's funny. It's like when I get asked that question, I mean, my head explodes with the multitude of things that have happened to me over the years, and people are like, why you? Why did this happen? And a lot of people do tend to recall why they have the experiences that they have. And I didn't always, but I do now. But I was raised in a haunted house, so that piqued my interest to find answers. And it was strange because my sisters and I, it wasn't fun when you're a kid being tortured by menacing things, and but it's odd because the only thing that was interesting to us when it came to watching movies were horror movies, because it actually gave us an outlet for, even if it was make believe, for people to understand the horror
Mhm.
that's involved. So it was therapeutic almost.
I was going to
So
say, I bet it was comfortable. Maybe it
Yeah, yeah,
was.
it's strange. It's still to this day we all dig the horror movies because it really helps us somehow. Something weird in there helps us, but it's strange to say, but as a kid, I had bad seizures when I was a kid,
Oh
and
my
I
gosh, I
outgrew
didn't
it,
know
thank goodness. But I would come back with memories of this crystal city I would go to. And
that. Wow.
but it wasn't always when I was having the seizures either, though. So it was I have a lot of memories of going to this heaven-like place, and even still to this day, I don't have seizures. And I recall, going to these places that look very much like ancient Greek or Roman buildings, and them being made of a crystal that always baffled me, why I couldn't see what was inside of the buildings as I walked by them, because I put my hand on the other side of one of the columns and I could kind of make out my hand, and it was just the strangest thing. But I would go to this place, and I still do, to learn different things. And
Wow.
I've met there is a couple of people that I recognize there only. But it's always been fascinating for myself in the experiences that I had there, being able to recall what I have, and them allowing me to walk into the building, sit down, have a teacher at the front of this auditorium kind of a room start speaking, and then I don't remember what they've taught. So it's it's been interesting. But yeah, so it's like a wealth of knowledge that I know is instilled in me, and I actually remember agreeing to be born here to work on the things that I do right now. As odd as that may sound, but all I could do is be honest with
Oh,
myself, and you know, and
not
I
in my
haven't been
world.
hypnotized to remember. What's that?
It's not odd in my world because I believe we all
Yeah.
come with purpose.
Yes. Yes.
So, you're talking ghosts and things like that. That is kind of up my alley because I've never seen ghosts. I just happen to feel them, sense them, and talk to them. Have the
Yes.
ability to talk, as we know, as a medium. Um, so, what decided you to start writing books? What got you into the podcasting? More into that? What happened? What started that?
Well, when it came to that first book I wrote while I was in college called The Secret War, that was pretty much out of an urgency and necessity because I was experiencing something that I referred to as shadow people being around me. And I didn't know exactly what it was that I was experiencing and seeing. And I had also experienced a lot of UFO sightings, ones that responded to me, that would come and
Oh,
show themselves with friends around, even going to a UFO conference. And I was trying to show people how do you look for UFOs, and then one came overhead. I mean, it's just the strangest things, and not small ones either, you know. So I had already, by the time that I wrote that book, The Secret War, I'd gotten my recollections back. I knew what my mission. Yes, that book. I can't believe you have an original, which is just mind blowing. Because the
given to me by a dear friend. She goes, Carm, you have to have this. This is her book. Which saved
That's
me. So
amazing. I mean, you can't get a hold of those really anymore. And I have to put it back into print. I should do that pretty soon here. They are only as an ebook right now, and they outsell all my other books combined. And having it been my first book, I'm like, that's not my best writing. The Jesus book is, but it's been a whirlwind. I had a lot of experiences that involved the UFOs, and having seen shadow people, having seen
mhm.
ghosts, and I had a roommate in college who was an artist like myself, and she was very religious. She was Pentecostal, and she experienced things right alongside of me, but she thought everything was demons. I'm like, it's not all demons. Take a better
No.
look. When yeah,
Mhm.
when you're seeing some of these things, and she fell into the category as most of my friends. Oh, don't talk about those things unless we're making fun of Heidi for looking into the UFO topic, right? And that's okay. I learned to roll with the punches and have a good time with it myself. But one occasion, she was driving to her college. She went to a different one than myself, and she's driving in broad daylight when a crystal, sparkly looking gel like creature jumped on the hood of her car and shoved its head through her windshield.
Oh my
Now,
God.
I know
That would
it's
freak
the
me
craziest.
out.
It's the craziest thing, and so she calls me from once she reaches her college, and in a panic, and I'm like,
Who
"What's
else do
going?"
you call but Heidi?
Of course, she's like, she's talking so fast, and da, da, da. I'm like, "What? I don't understand. What are you trying to tell me?" And it was just so strange. I felt like, do you need me to come pick you up? What is this? But long story short, we went to meet after our classes were done, and we're sitting at the lake talking. Like, so what happened? You said an alien? Something jumped on the hood of your car? And she describes this thing when it shoved its head through the windshield. I'm like, how did you not panic and crash? Because
Yeah.
I've never seen or heard of a gel-like creature before. And I was into the topic, and she's describing something I don't know what she's meaning. And she's like, Heidi, it had a really calming effect to it. she's like, so I was totally at ease. So when it started to talk to me, the strangest thing, she said, you know how you go to the dentist and your mouth goes numb and they numb it up? Yes. And she's like, my mouth, I started asking it questions all of a sudden. I'm like, I'm at ease. It's something different. I'm talking to it. And my mouth goes numb and it starts answering me through my own mouth. And all these
Oh,
things
oh
started coming
my.
forward. Yeah, and I'm like, "What? You're kidding me," At that stage, I had joined a UFO and alien discussion group. A lot of the people that were there at that meeting, they would had hypnotic regressions, and I witnessed it. And not every time that they would go to respond to what it is that they're seeing, a being would speak through them, or one that they were interacting with. So I'd seen this before, but I was like, here's my Pentecostal friend who's totally loved picking on me, yes, yes, and totally, hair never cut, the big skirts, the whole deal. I was
Wow.
like, okay, she's talking about an alien. All of a sudden, she goes, while we're talking, we're sitting at the lake. She goes, I don't know what it is, but I gotta meditate right now. I'm like, meditate? I didn't know she did this. I'm like, do I get out of the car? We're at the lake. You're talking about something cool and you want to close your eyes? I'm like, what is this? And that's when she closed her eyes. She was Puerto Rican. She had a very thick accent, and her accent reduced almost immediately as she closed her eyes. And this voice came forward and said, hello, I've been waiting to speak to you for a very long time. I was like, what? What's going on here? And I'm like,
Channeling to you
Samantha?
at that point.
Yes, to
Was she
me. Yeah.
channeling to you then? Okay. That's
Yes.
so how did you feel on that moment?
I was blown away. I mean, I thought,
Yeah.
okay, she's pulling off the biggest joke of her life. Or, she's really, something really is happening here. And I had to, so much is going through my head. And I'm like, hold it, you've seen this before, Heidi. You've seen this before. Calm down. Don't jump out of the car. I'm like, it was a strange situation. And that began an introduction to a being who made himself often available to communicate through my Pentecostal friend to talk about none other than an alien war, the secret war, and shadow people, demonic entities, even mentioning Jesus, God. I was stunned because it was some of the stuff. It was things that I personally had pushed from my own life because I was raised Methodist. I believed in God, believed in Jesus, but I saw Jesus as a historical figure more than anything who
Yeah.
said to return one day. Um, so to have some being who did show himself during that conversation I had with her then during that time, um, proved to me that he was real. Told me I didn't
Yeah.
pray enough,
He
and
told you that?
he told me that, yes, and
Oh my.
I had to come full circle back to sitting in a pew at church or something, in my head, that this is all connected. And it was something I wasn't looking for. I wasn't expecting, but
You are a very normal person, by the way. When I talk to you, I feel that the energy of you.
oh,
And you are a occupational therapist, is that correct?
I am.
By day? By day.
Yes.
So, I mean,
Yes.
I have a lot of friends who've had very normal people who've had alien experiences, and they tell you the story, and you're like in awe, really. And I'm in awe right now of this story.
Oh,
Um, Not even a story. It's like, what? How do you say? I mean, so let me go back. Let me try regress here for a second.
sure.
What happened after that when all this occurred? It changed your life, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a lot, and whenever I think of doing a radio interview, I'm like, how do you want to come at this the subject because it just
Who's
keeps
your audience?
expanding. What was that?
Who's your audience is what I
Uh,
always say.
yes. Well, I'm never shy to talk about Jesus.
Oh, I
I
love
I
Jesus.
I mix it into everything, him into everything because he has
Yeah.
become the main reason I'm able to sit here and even speak on these things because the things I'm most known for are discovering, coining, naming, and now trademarking shadow people and the Hat Man
Mhm.
phenomenon. And so it's quite dark. And having
Yeah.
a sense of humor does help me, but Jesus is the one that protects me in the whole thing. There's no
Well,
way I could do this.
you have you need the light, and I feel like Jesus is your light that guides you through this.
Truly.
And I my work is always, I connect to him when I do my work. I always start a prayer in my mind. I say, in me, through him, with me. I ask for the guidance of you, Jesus, for the
Yeah.
highest messages for the person in front of me. And I don't require anybody to believe in him. I believe in him, and I just walk his path. And
Oh,
that's how we kind
yes.
of, I feel like he connected us. I really, because I talk to him all the time. It's conversations.
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, he's my rock. And, it's strange when, a person is known for the paranormal in such a big way, because I was a regular on Coast to Coast for over 20 years.
Mhm.
And, to come and just be perfectly honest. And I interjected I had encounters with Jesus as well that, after I had this encounter with this being.
Yeah.
And, I put it in that secret war book because I couldn't keep quiet about it. I was a skeptic of people who said, I saw Jesus in my bowl of soup or something,
On my
and
grilled cheese sandwich.
grilled cheese sandwich, all that stuff. And I was so inundated with so many different things that I was seeing personally. And of course, the church is not open to these things. And,
No.
so it's one of the reasons why I stepped away from the church ideas, because before my eyes, I'm seeing things that were more real to me than what was being preached to me. Though I kept God and Jesus in my heart, I did step away in my faith a lot. And so it was quite, being the person that I was in college. I knew nobody that would go to bed early on a Saturday night so they get up to church on Sunday while in college.
Mhm.
So, and I surely
Yeah.
wasn't going to church or anything like that. And I'm not a church or Bible thumper, but I'm very realistic and I'm very Christian about, my faith in him after he stepped forward into my life, literally. That's all it took to convince Heidi just to smack her physically upside the head and say, "Hey, I'm right here."
I think sometimes it's amazing how he walks into people's lives. And I think with you, I think you're here for this world to talk about him, and
Oh,
to
yes.
also, you're a normal person having a I call it a spiritual experience in my mind. And even
Yes.
with the, paranormal, it's really a spiritual thing to me. Don't you think?
Oh, very much so. It's a little quiet. It's hard to hear you, just so you know.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay. So I will talk. Can you hear better now?
Yes, I can. Okay.
Well,
Yes, but
I'm
I
going
I
to leave
did
this
catch what you
on.
said. It's all a spiritual experience, and, to say otherwise is not, that's just not it. When it comes to Jesus in particular, I mean, he is absolutely aware of everything. He's
Yes.
absolutely feels and is conscious of everything. And one of my
The
last
greatest.
experiences with him, he
Oh,
made that clear. What's that?
he's the greatest empath we know.
Oh, yes. And it's so bizarre. It's so strange to me. After I had my first encounter with him, and I could tell you what that was like if you want.
Please. I want you to. Please, please.
Yes. I love talking about him more than anything, and I usually get asked about the demonic stuff, and,
Oh,
yes, and I'm just like, "You have no idea. I have 8 books out and only 3 are on the dark topics. Everything else is angels and Jesus, and, faith. I just love these things, and, so the first time that I experienced him, just again skeptic on the topic, that book, The Secret War, was written. I had actually put my skepticism of people who claim to see Jesus, because I'm like, I've seen so much. I think I would have seen him by now if he were out here. That's how
mhm.
much I was experiencing. I was so
Oh,
overwhelmed. I literally put that in there. I had to rewrite that part, so don't worry. But so I worked in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning to like
mhm.
11, and I'd come home, take a nap, and then go to a class or something. So I did that on this day, and I told my roommate, "Hey, you turn your TV down, I'm gonna go take a nap." I go to lay down on my bed, and of course, when you go to lay down on your bed, you straighten it out, you move your pillow, you do something, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
went,
Get it cozy.
yes, I go to lay down on my bed, and I missed my bed and hit the floor, and it was so abrupt. I'm like, how the heck did I do that? I'm like getting up, straightening myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I miss my bed? And I'm
That's
looking around,
weird.
and I'm not in my bedroom anymore. And instead, I'm on my parents' front porch, and
Mm.
I'm baffled how I got there, and I'm literally trying to explain to myself how I got here, and I'm like, okay, I know this place. I'm like, okay, I know that I was supposed to be meeting a family friend named Quincy here at my parents' home. I'm like, maybe that's it. I was supposed to be meeting him here, and somehow I got here, and I don't recall how
You
this took
blacked
place. And
out.
yes, it was just I was doing anything to explain how I got here. And my parents live out in the country a bit, and they have a long driveway. And I'm looking down the driveway because I see this man walking towards me, and I'm like, ah, yes, that's Quincy now. Okay, yes, Heidi, this is this is what's happening. And almost immediately, and every time I think about this, I get goosebumps. Almost immediately, I recognize who it was because every
Mm.
cell in my body screamed his name. It's Jesus, you know. And I was like, oh, and
What
I
do I do
put,
next?
oh my gosh, I put my face in my hands, and I'm going, I just can't. This is happening, I'm like, and he's coming closer, and I feel him. I mean, the love that comes off from him is so immense. There's just no words. And I'm my silly self though. I'm my silly self going like this is really happening. And I'm going, I'm like literally touching myself like I'm here. You are here, Heidi. This is going on. He comes right in front of me, and I'm palming my hand my face, and he says
Knocking
hello
on you.
like he's gonna, yeah, he says hello like he's gonna talk about the weather or something. I'm like, hello. And he goes, are you he says, do you know who I am? If you knew who I was, you would not hesitate to say it. And I'm like, he's calling me out. And I'm like, and I would go, whoa, 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 and I'm stuttering because I am just blown away. I'm like, you're Jesus. I don't speak a lick of Spanish. I took German in school.
And
I called
that
him
came right
Jesus.
out.
I don't know why I called him Jesus. And when I took my hands away, he said, "Yes, I am." And I had seen he had rose off the ground ever so slightly, off-white colored uh, robes, bright light behind his head,
Mm.
shoulder length hair. His face was totally blacked because of the intense light coming from behind him.
Did you see his eyes? What did his eyes
I
look
did
like?
I did not see this time his eyes. I have seen him in other times. And his eyes, it's like the sky blue. They glow. But I knew when I seen those eyes that they were
Mm.
not the color of his eyes when he was in this lifetime. Like I didn't know
Right.
why I was told that, but totally bright blue, glowing eyes. But in this instance, no. And
By the way, I'm getting gooses in my vibration when you're describing it. I feel goosebumps all
me
across
too.
my body.
I'm so glad because I'm head to toe in him every time I speak of him because I love him so much. I just love him so much, and it always evokes so much emotion from me, even when I
I want,
say that.
yeah.
And I don't get to say it much in on shows, so I appreciate the space here
Oh
to
my
do
God, I
that.
love it.
Yeah, and he is the feel what he in that moment when he said yes I am. He started talking about his life and how he what he was doing and how so much needed to be done yet. And again, Carm, I am me going, this is really happening. I'm
Like,
looking
why me?
around.
Why me? What's going on here?
I'm
I'd be
looking
like
around. I'm like a
going,
kid in a class not paying attention, going, I'm pinching my leg. And then I realize, Carm, the ground is really close to me. And I'm like, why is the ground so close to me? And I exclaim in my head, I'm on my knees. I don't even remember
Oh.
going on my knees. I must have collapsed to my knees in front of him. And as and then he got quiet because I was like, I was amazed I'm touching the ground. I'm touching the ground with my hand. And I realized, like a kid caught, whoa, 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 whoa. And I'm stuttering. What do you want me to do? And he said, first, you need to show us some things. I'm like, us? And I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my goodness, he's
Mm,
speaking of his dad. And
mm.
yeah, I feel emotional too. And I'm like,
I know. I'm like, wow.
yeah, I was blown away. And I stood up and he started telling me. And it's so funny because when he was talking about his life, I could, it's so weird to say I could see his lips moving, but
Hmm.
he was shadowed. So how would I see his? Yeah, it must have been
Do you feel
like
like
an
it was coming right through here, like a conversation without words being spoken
but it
physically,
like
but yeah,
images were coming too. So it's like he was talking and it became a motion picture almost, and so much was coming forward. And I
yeah.
wish that I could have held it together better because I think I missed something. But
Oh.
but he said something to me that has baffled me, though some people have given their opinions on what he said. um because he told me some things I knew I wasn't supposed to recall. I knew that. and
Mhm.
uh and I'm and he started to walk away, like he had to go. And I'm like, think of
Got someplace
something,
to be
Heidi,
next.
ask him
Yeah.
something. you know and I said, hold on, what's my real name? And he laughed lightly, and he said, I love you very much, Ilea. And it was like an
Wow.
Ilea. And I
Mhm.
was like, Ilea. I have to remember Ilea. And the opinions of folks, what that means, it's kind of, it's too much for me. I feel, but yeah, just mind blowing stuff. But and then, oh, there's much more that's happened after that. But that was my introduction to him. And I couldn't stop talking about him. And all I kept telling people is like, Jesus is no joke. He's real. He's here. So that's what I called my book, is Jesus is no joke.
I love
Because
that.
I was in college, I'm like, oh, you guys, take your kids to church, whatever it is, he's here.
How
Yeah.
many years ago was that? Do you mind me asking?
That was 1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you feel he was walking the earth then, or was he just visiting at that point?
He was visiting. He actually, it's funny because when I saw him the last time, oh no, it wasn't the last time. It was the second to last time, and he admitted how he was anxious to return, absolutely
Yeah.
anxious to return.
Um,
And he let me feel just a hint of what he felt from everybody. And it was so
what did
overwhelming.
that what
Oh, it was
was
so
that? What did
overwhelming.
you
He
Could
he
you
filled.
describe it in any
I gave in the book, I gave a list of, like, it was absolutely every ache and pain, concern, uh anything that's ever happened, the dog you kicked, whatever, everything.
Oh,
Hmm.
I almost feel like it's, and maybe I'm wrong, but so what I've been told when I go up and talk to the people who have passed up there, they get a life review and they get to feel everything they did, good and bad. Like you said, you kicked the dog, you hugged a woman who needed help. You
Yeah,
feel it all. Would you think it's kind of like that?
that times a gazillion, because
Yeah.
I don't think there's a release for him.
Oh, that
Yeah,
makes me so sad because how do you hold all that in? And how do you
e-
carry it?
exactly, exactly. And there's an experience I haven't quite ever spoken on, not regarding him, but I guess you could say our creator, um,
Hmm.
that let me know that all these harms continue to grow to a terrible point, you know?
Yeah. Well,
And
I believe
mhm,
it's sad because our world is really struggling right now. More, I think more so than ever. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah, yeah. It's there's a problem, but darkness won't win. And a lot of
no,
people,
never will.
no,
Mm. I feel like
right,
my biggest message for people when I do this work, it's all about love in the end. If you want to err on anything, err on love. Err on being your best person by loving the people around you, especially the people who hurt you, um, or
yes,
challenge you, I call it, because you have to choose to be hurt.
oh
So
yes,
I try to live a beautiful state of life and try to
it's
be.
important,
It is, and to be calm in the storm. I mean, hard
yeah,
sometimes. Um,
truly.
what do you feel? How many times has he come to you, by the way?
Um, in that book that you have, I wrote of 4 encounters.
Hmm.
He's come by a few more times, and that's what I'm working on now is a new book regarding,
Yes.
yeah, the follow ups to him and miracles. Honestly, absolutely miracles that have happened in my life that directly concerned him. And
Can you talk about those? Can you give us? Do you mind sharing that?
well, I've had several healings. Is the best way to put it, and I have one
Okay.
of them mentioned in the Jesus is No Joke book that you have, and
Right.
it's quite involved, and
But
yeah,
he
it's
helped you
something that
through.
would take quite a bit of background to instead of
Well,
blurting
and
put it in.
but I
But
do
yes,
believe
healings.
I love that. And
Yes.
if you were going to talk to say a 10-year-old child about Jesus and
Mm.
your experiences with him, what would be the main message for that 10-year-old child?
Is how he is absolutely aware and always near and able to be connected with. Um, you
Hmm.
know, I think it's important for them to know they could fully rely upon him. It's not even slight, fully rely upon him. And it seems cliche and historic, like, oh yeah, we've heard that before. I said, but you don't understand the
Hmm.
immensity of what I'm saying. I don't think the impact of who he is and how much a part of us he is and how sincere he is and the love and he hopes you call on him. He hopes you report back, he hopes. And uh and I, and I think that's the part that escapes people because they get so caught
Hmm.
up in what they're seeing instead of seeing what they live, living what they see, you know
Wait, you
um
said living what you see.
they people
Yeah.
are often living what they see instead of seeing what they live. And I
I
think
love
I
that
put
what you just said. That's
Mhm.
that's very something you should probably definitely copyright that because I feel we need to
it
be more aware,
it is
more
it's
aware.
in the I think I put it in the last part of the Jesus book. It's right there.
I love that. I'm going to use that, by the way, if you don't mind. But I would,
Oh, it's
you know,
copywritten. I don't know.
can I just say Heidi Hollis's
There you go.
quote?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's hard for all of us. We struggle because our
Yeah.
egos get involved,
Yes.
and our fears, and fear is ego, really.
Mhm.
Because we live in our heart. That's what he wants us to do, I believe. If
Yes.
we can err on the heart side and teaching a heart class, kids coming up, little. But I believe, I mean, I struggle every day because I get in my ego and I have to pull back, and especially when I'm in a situation that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
My
It
ego likes
it's
to creep in.
I understand a lot of things in that regard, and I always think it's a shame how that dominates in so many people's lives, And it's like I get it; we all fall into the trap, and they think they're so ethereally screwed because they have that. And I'm like, hold on, you have to
We need
understand,
it.
God made us this way for a reason. He
Well,
wants us to fall down, get back up.
I think if you are okay knowing that you're an imperfect person living in an imperfect world, and you're trying to just do make the best of it and live a good life, you have to accept that because you're going to
Yeah.
fail. Everybody fails. No one's perfect.
That's what this
And
life is about.
mhm,
It
I
truly
feel
is.
I feel like for me, I have to constantly, forgive myself, not carry it anymore, and say, okay, Carm, you screwed up. I won't use the F word on this conversation. But I do. I mean, I'm not perfect. I try to do my best every day, and sometimes I lose because I'm not seeing what's in front of me and not feeling what's in front of me, and that's where I think I'm
Yeah.
not seeing the other person's journey too. You have to always look at the other person in front of you, or the situation in front of you. Why is it in front of me? What's going on here? What's it challenging me to do? I was going to ask you, this is kind of an interesting question. You had the dark first. The dark shows up, this ghost, the scary things. Do you think it was prepared to prepare you for the light? Jesus.
Speaking on these things, it goes back to recalling what I know what I was born here to be doing, and it sounds strange, but it's just something that I know for myself, and I guess to give the story a little bit about what happened to help better paint the picture. I
Hmm.
was in college again. I was talking to my friend. She was my roommate, the Pentecostal one, and sitting there talking in the living room on the futon, purple futon. I got up to
Love
go use the restroom. No urgency. Just got up to leave to go to the restroom, and all of a sudden I'm not in my living room anymore. And I'm looking at this scene in space, and I saw what was like a spinning sun, and it went clockwise. If you're coming at it from here, it's going
it.
clockwise.
Yeah.
And in this light were trillions upon trillions of lights in it, and each light was a soul. And I was one of the souls in there. And now, thoughts, ideas, goals, literally missions, if you will, the thought would go clockwise. It was like a liquid, I call it a love soup. And
Ooh,
the everybody would contribute to the thought or idea as it passed through, and then it would go to the center of the light and it would become one. This thought came by of something that needed to be done, and I'm not kidding you. I recall kind of saying like, I guess that's something I could do. And it was almost like everybody took a step back in line and said, "She said she'd do it." Whoosh, I'm being pulled out of this light. And with everything I had in my soul, I'm like, "I take it back." I take it back, because it was like having your heart ripped out to get pulled out of this light. And I went from there, and by the way, next to the light was a red spinning light that I knew everything that's ever happened was recorded there. And I called it a library of knowledge. People say Akashic. I didn't know a name
yeah,
for it, but library of knowledge. And I left that light and I went shooting through space to be trained on different places. The Crystal
yeah.
City was is a major one, but different planets even. Not like I remember all of the different planets. I have little
Right.
snippets. Existence here, and a part lifetime in ex Yugoslavia, and knowing I came here to warn people about the darkness that's threatening here, which are the shadow people, the Hat Man, and it seems so big and profound, but it's so weird because I had never thought of this seeming bigger than anything, just something I had to do, right? But I'll tell you
Mhm.
a little snippet of that, but so I get all this memory back, and again, I'm standing in the middle of my living room. I come back to my body, and
Wow.
I go to my friend, "How could I forget? How could I forget? How could I forget?" And I go to sit down on the futon. She goes, "What? Forget to use the bathroom? Go ahead." And I'm like, "How can I forget who I am and what I'm doing here?" And I'm looking around the room, and I'm reaching for my phone to quit college to drop everything. I didn't come here to be a therapist. What am I doing here? Oh my gosh. And I'm like practically wanting to run out the door to start on everything. And it was really difficult to want to be here because this place, it sounds horrible to say this place sucks in comparison, but that
Challenge
was
life.
home. It was home.
Yeah.
And here I am having to push this time thing is taking forever to get to what needs to be done. And so it's been a struggle ever since that moment to be here. And I've heard this type of talk from near death experiencers because it was home.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
I feel like, people are like, "Oh,
We're
yeah, I
beginning.
remember my past incarnations." I said, "I didn't say it was that. I think it might have been my
Mhm.
beginning, um, before any of these lifetimes." But, uh, that's all I could tell you. But it's so strange. The one snippet that I wanted to add was, I know in pointing the finger at this darkness and what's here
Mhm.
and warning people and preparing them for it because it's infiltrating people's natural evolution. Um,
I agree.
but in warning on them, it is when you get rid of the darkness, life lives forever. And people are
There's
like,
no
"Hold on, what are you trying to say, Heidi? Are you trying to say you're not you're not God or anything?" I'm like, I said, I never thought of it as an age old battle, but it really is an age old battle between good and evil, and the darkness
Mhm.
has to go. It's time, and I know I was sent here to work on that part.
Think about this. I mean, I kind of feel too that darkness is the separation of
Eternal
the
life.
middle, eternal life. And right now, we're being separated from each other by thought processes, politics, fear, and infighting. And families are not separating because of things, the vax and all that other stuff. I know a lot of people who I can't talk to her, I can't talk to him because we disagree. It's like, what happened to the old adage of, can we agree to disagree and love each other still? And I think it's a separation from the middle. And my biggest belief is we all need to come to the middle and hold each other and love each other and see each other as imperfect beings. And Jesus, we're all made in his light and his likeness. And when we decide to separate through arguments, through that, to me is where I feel the darkness shows up. We're pulled out.
Mhm,
And the only way to get back is to turn that light on and to um, move toward the middle and forgive, love,
mhm,
come back to love and forgiveness. And my dad always said, and this is one thing I repeat in a lot of my readings and when I do podcast, is to see everybody in their own wheelchair. What got them there? Why they're in the wheelchair? Because we have compassion when we see someone in a wheelchair.
mhm.
And compassion is what we think we've lost, in
That's
this time
beautiful.
period.
No, that's beautiful. I mean,
It,
you really have to have you have to understand too how God and Jesus looks at us as all children. I'm literally as children. I
we're his
being a
children.
therapist, I love going to my 90-year-old patients and you know, just
Oh,
squeezing their little cheeks. I'm like, "Oh, God loves you." It's like you're just so
you
cute.
know, it's to me, the children and the elderly are the ones who really emit the light of Jesus because they haven't been tainted. And the elders see it as that they've come back to that simple life and the simple
Mhm.
thought process, and they've figured out, oh, it's all about love, and I'm going soon, so I better clear up all the past stuff.
Yeah.
And they're so beautiful, and we lose sight of that. People are pushing the elderly out into homes, to assisted living or even, convalescent, forgetting about them. My parents, my sister and I moved to Colorado Springs from LA back in the late 99, 2000. And what we found, because we had them in assisted living and we had to move my mom into convalescent, and my dad went with her because he didn't want her to be alone. We made a commitment to see them every day, one of us. And a
Oh,
few
that's
times
nice.
we weren't, well, we felt like, if we're going to move you here, we're making a big commitment and we love you. And best 2 years of my life was watching my parents
Aw.
die. And I will
Oh,
tell you, I learned something. I got to see the end of the love story I never knew existed. Wow.
oh,
But
oh, that's moving.
I found through that there's not a lot of people visiting old
No.
folks, and we were like one of the few families who really cared about them,
Yeah.
and all these other people were just dropped off and see you later, and they weren't loved anymore, and we need to come back to the connection of seeing our elderly as our biggest gifts and teachers, and
Yes.
the beauty of the simplicity of growing old,
Yes.
because old is fearful, and I'm not gonna get on my bandwagon, but I think I might for a second, is that we're
Oh,
trying to stay youthful. We're trying to make sure we always look young. Why not look like we're sage? We have a sage about us. We have the knowledge. Our wrinkles show our paths and our knowledge we've accepted in this lifetime. And my belief on in this earth, on this plane right now, is to help teach people to love themselves, to love others. And I use Jesus because I love him and I use his words. But I honor all faiths because Jesus would.
yeah.
I love what would Jesus do. That's kind of my big thing. Is like, what would he do? I
Oh,
better,
I
I
love
better
it.
err on that right now. But and also if we can let go of the judgment of people, that's huge in
Yeah.
this world. Judgment separates us again, the separation from the whole, the entire. And I'm sure you've been judged because you're speaking of things that people are fearful of. I've been judged because of my mediumship that she's crazy, or God, I thought you're one of us Christians. I'm like, I am. We just have
Uh,
a different Jesus we watch.
yeah. It's funny.
So
I've been surprised. I really haven't received a whole lot of static and speaking on the stuff I do, and it's been very minimal, and
I
it's
love
kind
that.
of it's been really I've been surprised. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I really haven't had a whole lot of that. If any kind of critique I get is people think I'm having too much fun talking about dark stuff. I swear,
Well,
like you've got a sense of
that's a good
humor.
thing.
Like that's not okay. Like yeah, how can I take you serious? You're laughing. I swear, that's
Well,
it.
I think you got to have humor in lifetime. Don't forget the F word, fun, and
Oh
don't
yeah,
forget the L word, laughter. Because
yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a very hard child upbringing. My mother was mentally ill,
Mm.
and we found I have five brothers and sisters, and our biggest gift was learning how to laugh at the crazy
Oh, yeah. It
or
helps.
the uncomfortable. The uncomfortable is really because
Yeah,
I have a great sense of humor. I love that you have a great sense of humor because I
have
believe
to.
I'm attracted to people who can laugh. The saddened are the
Yeah,
people I feel sorriest for because without laughter, you can't raise your vibration, and it's all energy, all things energy. Carm believes in that
yeah.
too. Um, but
It's important.
it is, and I feel for um, our health, we need to bring more laughter, and we need to also bring more tears and allow people to cry. I was never allowed to cry young because my dad said, "Your mother cries all the time. We have enough of it. Thank you.
Oh,
Hold it in."
boy.
Yeah, I've learned now to do tears, and it's relearning things
Mhm.
that are healthy for us. And I feel for you, you don't get a pushback because you really are, like, when I talk to you, it's like, oh, she's a real person. I can relate to her. She's normal. Yeah, she has a wild story and it's real, and
Yeah,
I understand it. And I just love that you're talking today on this because this is
yeah.
so important. And by the way, I'm going to have to announce this.
Mhm.
I've invited Heidi to come out and speak on all things
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes, I
Jesus
appreciate
is
it.
no joke. Yeah, we're
Look
going to do it
forward to it.
October 14th and 15th. We'll have some. I think we're going to have. I'm putting it together right now, so it's still kind of on the shifting, but
Yeah.
feeling two nights, one on the paranormal maybe, and then a big night on Jesus, angels, all the angelic realm, and talking about how we can strengthen our spiritual existence in this plane. And I'm
Yes.
going to invite Jesus to the meeting. I know he'll show up.
I love it. Oh, I can't wait.
And
I think it'll be awesome. It would
yeah,
take
and
2
I
nights to
feel
get through it all.
that's what I was thinking. I was told I get downloads, and so my downloads are from them up there telling me, Carm, So I just go, oh, 2 nights. Okay. I don't even think about it anymore. It's like, okay, I'll talk to her about that. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, that's cool.
So,
Yeah.
you
No, I
know,
look forward to it.
I don't believe anything happens by accident.
No.
Us meeting was very purposeful. Thank you, Lori Hellenkamp. She's a fangirl of yours, so I don't think she'll
Oh,
mind me
that's
mentioning.
cool.
She's a nurse
Must tell her
practitioner
hello
who
for me.
I will. I will. She'll be listening, of course, on this, and she'll
Okay.
probably come to the. I'm sure she'll come to
Hello.
the event. But you know, I just can't thank you enough for the work you do. I know it's hard, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person because energy is always great to see and be in the energy of people.
Oh
And
gosh.
I know we're connected for a reason, and who knows where it's
Yes.
going. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
that you should be thinking also. I'm kind of getting a download here. I feel like is maybe doing a podcast on like how you did the paranormal. Do a podcast on, and maybe you're already doing that now. So excuse me if I'm wrong, but who people who've had encounters with Jesus. My man Ray had an encounter, and I hope I don't. If I, he had an encounter with Blessed Mother Mary, Mother Mary, as people say, but I love the
Yeah.
Blessed Mother. As a Catholic, I was raised,
Ah.
and it was what you explained on the level of the people and the light. He said the same thing in his own words,
Oh, I love it.
and
I would
it
love to
was
talk to
validated.
him.
Oh, he's fascinating. You would love him. He's
Yeah.
the most interesting man in the room. That's why I'm still with him all these years.
Oh,
He'll
I
be
love
thinking,
it.
God, Carm.
I'd love
But
to chat with him more about it.
yeah, it was really funny because when he not woke up, but when after the experiences at nighttime, we were in bed and he woke me up and he said, Blessed Mother just came to visit. I'm like, where is she? Where is she? Where? I wanted to see her. And he goes, no, no, no. She's gone. But I laid her for 15 minutes because I didn't want to release the feeling, what I felt like
Yes.
with her. The feeling is something you can't describe.
Yes,
And
that was something I did share with you. I didn't wanna move after I came back to my body after seeing
yeah,
Jesus
it's
that
this
first time. The love was
peaceful,
all over.
mhm,
It was all over,
like
and you
oozing.
don't wanna lose it.
He said it was interesting because he did go and try to talk to some priest about it, and the priest kind of poo-pawed him, and he felt like, wow, they're not listening. But it's
Yeah.
interesting. We were watching this happened way back in the early 90s. And we were watching a 60 Minutes, and this was early 90s. These kids were seeing the Blessed Mother in Medjugorje. And all the
Yes.
messages she gave him were exactly what these kids said in Medjugorje.
Wow.
And I'm like, we looked at each other and go, validation. We know I love her because she has gotten me through some very tough times in my life. I call on her.
Mm,
And my mother honored her. My mother, through all her sickness, she, in so many ways, was healthy because of her faith.
mm.
And the Blessed Mother was one of her mainstays. So
Wow.
I'm bringing that up. I
That's
have her in my
beautiful.
room.
You know,
Yeah.
it's been, I've been some things I spoke with you that maybe I'll be able to speak about by October, but I've been doing a crash course and trying to learn about Catholicism and stuff for a lot of
Oh,
reasons, but,
yeah.
it's like a whole other world, to be honest, and I'm like, "What on
Yeah.
earth?" So I've been, taking it in because I had an encounter with Mother Teresa. I didn't know who it was, and, I was like, "Who is this nun that showed up?" And I had to I was searching through a bunch of stuff because she looked younger than when she passed. So I didn't know who she was, but, it was mind-blowing, and, I had to come to terms with, wow, those Catholics must have something going on because
Well,
it's amazing.
yeah. Well, what's interesting is if you look at the people who are the mediums who are well known in the world today, Teresa Caputo, Kim Russo, John Edward, John Holland, Joe Shield, Janet Nahavik. They're all Catholics or ex-Catholic patriots, I call them,
Mm,
because I kind of feel Catholicism is kind of mystic in weird ways. My dad, the one thing I used to, my dad's a stutterer, first off, and he was a very shy man, beautiful soul.
mhm.
And so with that, he took up the Catholic charismatic movement back when I was about 13, 14.
Mhm.
And he was a devout Catholic. He went to church every day. And he then started speaking in tongues.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
He didn't stutter. He spoke perfectly. And I went to one of the masses. I'm like, he kind of took me kicking and screaming. And I'm watching him going, that's freaky. Dad's freaky. And then,
I've
he
been
kind of,
surprised how strange the Catholic faith is. I mean, it does have a lot of even that word mystic, like, it wasn't a word I ever pulled into my conversation. I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, it's really been eye-opening. I feel like I thought that I was okay on my path and had a good, clear understanding of things, and then I got this thrown in my path, and I'm just kinda surprised by there being definitions that fit in with a
yes,
religion. That's
the
really,
spirituality part of
really
Catholicism.
wild to me. Yeah, it's
Well,
shaken up it's shaken up my world, more recently about some of that, so yeah.
well, we'll have to have our own private conversation. I can give you the 411 and what I know in Catholicism. I was
Okay,
12 years at school, 12 years at Catholic school, but,
yeah,
I love the tenements of the church. I mean, I love the teachings. I love Jesus. I love the mass itself, what it does. Don't go enough, I can tell you that. But I'm looking forward to meeting you in the future. I'm gonna wrap it up here.
same here,
But
I can't wait
we
to
could
join
talk
you.
for 2 hours. Yeah, and so what I wanna do too is let you know, I want you to give your shout out of what, tell can you give us a 411 and where they can find you on the podcasting, your
Yeah,
you know, your all things
sure.
Heidi. So,
Okay,
boom,
cool.
your turn.
Well, so I welcome people, if you've experienced anything out of the ordinary, from the holy to the unholy, to go to HeidiHollis.com, and you can find me there. And also, you could go to iHeartRadio and just type in Coast to Coast AM, and it pops up. My show is called Dark Becomes Light on there. And,
Mm,
you know, I also do a paranormal comic strip. You can follow me. At the Outlanders Comic on Instagram, or go to theoutlanderscomic.com. And, again, having a sense of humor. It's all I ever, the Heidi, human Heidi, all she ever wanted to do is be a comic strip artist. That was all. And I've done that. But then, no, I had to remember my past. And here I am on this journey that it's going well, but a lot more work needs to be done. So, I'm here for the long haul, and I tell people I'm not getting out of this place any sooner than until some things are completed, and it's a doozy.
well, I hope you're here for a while, let me tell you,
Oh, I
because,
am.
people hear your messages and need to be around your energy. And I feel like you affect many people and you're going to be affecting a larger group. That's kind of what I'm getting here in my up world.
Oh,
And I thank you so much. And
thank you.
once again, everybody who wants to go, carmelsullivan.com, classes coming up too. Heart to Heart class coming up, How to Live in the Heart Center, Living Courageously, is coming up. If you're interested, it's starting May 17th, I believe, live, and then 2 Zoom events. And then we end up on June 11th live again. So it's 4 weeks of heart fun. And then I'm going to be teaching an intuitive training class in July for 2 days. And I'm hoping my friend Michelle Mosheri will come and join me teaching. And so for the people who wanting to open up and understand intuition better, that is the class for you. And you'll understand all the clairs, dot, dot, dot. And if you need a reading or if you just want to have fun and have a conversation, connect to me at carmelsullivan.com. On that note, Heidi, thank you, thank
Thank
you,
you
thank
too.
you. I honor your soul and I honor your time here. And I'm so excited for the future. So
Same here.
I'm going to say adios or hasta la vista to next time, really.
Be
And
blessed.
yeah, yeah, big hugs and light to you and keep doing
Same.
who you are, keep being who you are and keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, I
So,
can't stop. Got to keep going.
well, thank you again. And Carmo Sullivan, Heart to Heart Medium out. So, adios.